Hello my friends and welcome to today's video. I'm Jeanette with Vivo Vintage Designs. Today we're going to be working with alcohol inks. So I have a bunch of inks and my dry palette. I'll go over that in a moment. But I want to show you what it is that I want to paint today or something similar. These are paintings that I did years ago. These are with alcohol inks. I did sell the originals, so all I have left are these prints. But this is the style of painting that I would like to work on today. These are so pretty, and they were so much fun to paint. And this is the last one. And what I want to do is something similar to this one. So I'm going to keep this out as a reference, and we'll see what we can come up with. I'm working on Kirkland photo paper. I still have a stash. I have some inexpensive paintbrushes, and the colors that I've pulled out, although I'm not sure what I will use, are patina, pool, wild plum, red pepper, flamingo, terracotta, sunset orange, pink sherbet, honeycomb, and cranberry. I also have, well, this was clean alcohol, but since I never clean my brushes when I'm done painting, I had to clean them off. And I've got some alcohol in a spray bottle. My dry palette, I have a wee wee pad underneath here, and I will be using my blow dryer. I'll probably be using a white gel pen, or I think maybe a white gel pen. And these are the ones that I like, the Uniball Signo. I also have some black gel pens, and I'll probably be using my micron pens. Let's see, let's get this started and see where it leads us. So I like to, for the background, I'm going to create a light blue background. So I'm spraying the paper down. So I'm just dropping down some of the colors. Like I said, I want a light blue background. So I'm going to put that down. And then I'm going to take this large brush and I'm just going to go back and forth with this and make sure that the entire sheet is covered. And I'm not too concerned with the lines or anything like that because the flowers will cover the background so that you won't be able to see much of that anyway. And then I find that if I let this dry naturally, it usually works best. So that's what I'm going to do. If you start using the blow dryer, you're definitely going to get some harsher lines. So I'm going to just keep it like this. And you can see as I brush across, I'm just pulling some of that ink off of the paper. Okay, let's let that dry. All right, so that is dry now, and I think what I'm going to start doing is dropping in some of the colors that I want to use. So I really like the color Wild Plum. I'm going to put some of that down. And then here's my little dropper. I have some alcohol in this bottle, and I'm just going to put a drop in it to help it expand a little bit. And you can even take this brush with a rounded tip or a flat brush, and you can even pull it out to create some petals to help your painting along. So you can create flowers while the ink is still wet just by using a brush and pulling the ink inward. How cute is that? Right? Okay, let's see, what other color can we add? Let's do something red. We may make this one a rose. Let's see how that goes along. I have the idea, but it doesn't mean that it's going to work. So I'm just going to start by doing some little swishes in the center, like that, and then going along. Actually, I think I'm going to put a drop of this in here without any alcohol. Well, that didn't work out as well as I hoped, but I think it kind of looks like a rose. And look what happened to this one. That's disappointing. Maybe what I should do is not put the alcohol in it. I don't normally paint these like this, and so I'm just using the damp brush. It's got some alcohol on it, and I'm going to pull those petals back in here and see if I can make it a little bit better. It was so pretty. I'm sorry that I lost that. Micron pens will fix all of that. Let's drop in, this is Sunset Orange. Got the color Cranberry here. I'm going to try and do something like that again. I really liked that one. I have some pink sherbet over here. And I think what I'm going to do with the pink sherbet is I'm going to just put it on my micro brush like that. So I have a little bit on a micro brush, and I'm just going to tap in some circles to create something that kind of cascades out. Unfortunately, that was too much, so it spread out too far. Trial and error. So of course I can dry that. And then come back with a little bit more. I'm going to blot some of it off. And I'm going to leave that alone for now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the vase for this, and I think I might want something in, I'm not sure, maybe a terracotta color, I think. So I do have that on my dry palette. So what I'm going to do is use my large brush, the one that I used to create the background, and I'm going to go into the color terracotta. I'm going to pick that up, and I'm going to start creating this vase. And I want mine to be off to the side a little bit, just for interest. It might be nice. And I'm going to keep this pretty simple. I have too much alcohol on my brush, so I'm going to dab some of that off. I don't want it to spread too far. So I'm going to start to create this vase. Don't worry about your lines being perfect. That doesn't matter, because anything can be fixed with a micron pen or a gel pen or the Posca pens. So don't get yourself caught up in those little details. I think that's pretty good, but I want to add a little bit more color in there. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of the rust, and I'm going to add that in here too. Okay, now we can go back to the flowers, and I can pull this one out again. What other colors do I have here? I have the color terracotta, but since I've already used that there, I think I want to do another one of these, but I'm going to do it more carefully so that I don't make it overflow. I mean, bloom. I'm getting my watercolor and alcohol ink terms confused here. So it pays to just tap a little bit of it off on your paper towel, or if you have a wee pad like I do. You don't have to have a lot of flowers to make it interesting or pretty. And of course we're going to need one on the other side, I think. I'm going to try and make this one a little bit smaller. Okay, I think that's finished. Now for the center of this flower, I want to use a little bit of the sunset orange to create a center. So I'm going to put a little bit on my micro brush. Make sure I dab it so that it's not going to bloom too far. And I'm just going to create the center for that flower. And this one looks kind of a little bit like a sunflower. So for that one, I'm going to grab some brown. I have two different browns here, caramel and espresso. So I'm going to start with the caramel. I'm not even cleaning my brush. I'm using the same brush. I'm going to put the caramel on the micro brush. I'm going to tap it off. And then I'm going to start tapping in some of this color. And now I'm switching to the espresso, which is a darker brown. Again, I'm not cleaning my brush. I'm going to add a little bit of the brown. My brush has gotten a little bit too flat. Let me grab a new one. And I think because I want this to be a really stronger brown, I'm going to go into my dry palette and pick up the color Teakwood, and I'm going to really rub my micro brush in there and then start dabbing in the darker brown. Okay, that's good. And let's see, for this one, let's put a little yellow in that center just to brighten it up a little bit. So I have the color Honeycomb. I'm going to put a little bit on my micro brush, and I'm just going to tap in here. I think we need something else. I'm trying to think, what other color can I add in here? Do I have a purple? Let me grab a purple. I think that would look good. Okay, I have the color Twilight Purple here. And again, I'm going to grab the micro brush and I'm going to put the ink on the brush, and I'm going to create some petals. I want this to be a little hidden back there. I'm going to do the same on this side. And again, don't fuss over it too much. Just get the ink on the paper. We can work with the rest later. I think we need a little bud up here, since I already have a little purple on there. I don't know how that got there, but let's do another one here. Let's add some smaller ones here, just to fill in this area. These are just going to be little marks that I'll define a little bit later on. But I just want to fill in these areas here. Now that this is dry, I'm going to try and add a little bit more texture. I'm going to use the color Crimson. I'm going to pick that up from my dry palette, and I'm going to try and create a little texture in here. I'm going to use a smaller brush to start with so that I can create the center of the rose. And now that I have the center, I'll use a larger brush to create a little bit more texture. I'm trying to soften some of these up a little bit. I think it's a little too harsh, so I'm just dipping in a little bit of alcohol to lighten it up a little bit, loosen it up. I don't want it to be that defined. Okay, I think that's better. All right, so it's time to add a little greenery. So I am going to clean off my micro brush. I'm going to clean a smaller brush, and I'm going to start picking up some greens and adding some leaves here and there. Make sure you dab your brush off when you're using your dry palette. You don't want too much alcohol on the brush. So I'm just going to create some leaves here and there. Don't like that brush. I'm going to switch to a round brush. And I'm going to mix the greens. I want to make sure that I have different shades of green as I do this. And what I like to do to cover the edge of my pot or vase is I like to add greenery because it covers it very nicely. just like to go in between where I see too much white space. And I just add a few little dots of green. You don't have to go crazy. Not every little white space needs to be filled. And now I'm going to go into the color Teakwood to create a center for this one. I'm going to just tap in the Teakwood like this. I'm going to clean off my brush, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of butterscotch, and add that to the center there. And then I'll go over the Teakwood also to kind of blend it in a little bit better. And I think I may add a little bit of the Teakwood to this center here as well. Just going to go around the outside of that orange that I dropped in. And this one needs a center too. What color shall we do that one? I don't want to introduce any more different colors, so I'm just going to pick up the Teakwood, and I'm just going to kind of do this. Then I'm going to pick up a little bit of the black and mix that with the Teakwood, and then I'll just add a few more little details, some small lines. But again, I mixed it with the black so they are a little bit darker. I would say this is nearly finished now. If you're happy with this and you love the way it looks, you don't have to do another thing to it. However, you know me, I always have to do more. Let me get my micron pens. And now I'm going to start to add a little bit of detail. So I want to make sure that I use the small nib. This one is a 0.35. Okay, so for this flower here, what I had intended on doing was creating smaller petals towards the inside and larger petals towards the outside. So I'm just going to, notice I'm holding the pen towards the center. I'm not holding it too close to the tip because that gives me less control when I hold the pen like this. So you can see already how this flower is coming to life. So I'm going to leave that alone for now, and I'm going to move on to this one. So you can see here, I want these petals to be pointed, so as I'm tracing them, I'm not concerned with where the paint is. I'm just going to make them the shape that I want. And now we can start maybe outlining some of these leaves. And you don't have to add so much detail to each leaf. You can simply put a line around it. Now I'm ready to add some details to some of these flowers, but I'm going to switch to a micron pen with a smaller nib. Now I'm just going to add a few little lines, to get a few little lines in here, just for a little detail. I think it makes it more interesting. Then I'm going to take a larger nib, and I'm just going to add some black dots there. Then I'm going to go back to that smaller nib. This is the, this one, in this brand, it's a 05. And I'm just going to create some lines here as well. And I'm not going to do too much with that rose. I'm going to leave that alone because I think it looks great just as it is. And now I'm going to take my white gel pen, and I'm also going to create some centers. Let's see if I can get this pen to work. I have so many of them, and half of them work and the other half don't, and I never get rid of them. I think this one works. So I'm just going to add a few little white dots here and there for these little flowers. We can add a little highlight on some of these little dots that we created here simply by making a little line. You don't have to do every single one of them. Okay, and now we are at the vase. So for the vase, what I like to do is I like to add some white highlights. Let me pull this out so I can show you. Some white highlights like this, just to make it sparkle a little bit. You can see here I have one side darker, one side lighter. You can add details like this. There's so much that you can do. But highlights like this I think look good. So I am going to add a couple of lines. Let's outline it so we give it a little bit more definition. Then you can add a little bit more detail here and there until you're satisfied with the way it looks. I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. I think I would like to add something more to the, you know what I have to do is I have to make this a flat surface. I hate when I do things like this because the painting is finished as far as I'm concerned, but then I see something that I think needs a little something more, and then I get carried away. I'm going to pick up a little bit of the aquamarine. I'm going to dab my brush off. Make sure I don't have too much. Actually, I can even add a shadow, but I really want to add a flat surface more than anything. So I'm just going to go across like that. And before my brush dries, I'm trying to add a little bit of detail here to the bottom. And I think I want to add a little bit more detail or definition to these flowers. So I'm just going to add a few little lines here and there. That's what I mean. You can just keep going. You can really get carried away. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.